reason or another, the camera, which is now working, wasn't working a minute ago. So hello, welcome again. I don't know what this is going to have done to the previous bits, but I might have to ask my lovely son to have a look at it for me. Anyway, welcome to Brink Studio. If you've not seen me before, my name is Anita O'Neill, and I own Brink Studio, which is in West Norfolk, near Kings Lynn actually. And we have lots of fun here, make lots of mess. And when we're mopping up the mess, one of the things that we use is these, which are wet wipes. And then we keep them and we use them. So the last video that I did for you, I explained to you how to make backgrounds. And we made a few, which I will show you. So we used some muslin and tissue paper and paint, and as you can see there's a little bit of glitter on that one. This one is a mixture of Angelina with some gluey bits and a stamp on it. This is used cling film, not used on food. It was used to cover these paint trays actually. So rather than waste it, we've put some more paint on it. Most of this is dry, but not all of it, and we can stitch into it. This one I think did dry. It feels dry. There doesn't seem to be any movable bits in it, so we will stitch into that. I also used some Angelina stamps and other things onto some paper. And we painted some wet wipes, and I did this flower as well, which I have actually started to work into. And if I can get it up near the camera, you can see where I've been stitching, I hope. Okay, so it's just a start, and I'm going to do some more work into that shortly. But the first thing that I'm going to do is show you how easy it is to just stitch into some wet wipes, and that's all these are. They've got ink on them, they've got paint on them, they've probably got a lot of other stuff on them as well. This one's got a bit of glitter on it, so we'll use this one. Okay, so I don't know if the glittery bits are showing up on there or not. It doesn't look like it really. Oh yeah, there's some, look. Okay, so my sewing machine, this is the Banina. Everything is set on 0 and the feed dogs are down so that we can do free motion on it. The foot is the darning foot, and this is a closed one. I don't like the open darning feet because I find that I get things caught up on them, so I prefer them to be closed. But that's all down to personal preference. And we have a hoop here. Now, if you're used to hand stitching with a hoop, you know which way that you have to put things in them, but we're going to do it the opposite way because we're machine stitching and we've got to get this under our machine. So this piece here that's got this tightener on it, the little screwy bit, put that on the bottom, put your piece of fabric, or in this case a wet wipe, over the top, and then push the inner circle in. It's very tight, Anita. We want it as tight as we can get it. As tight as a drum is a good thing. Okay, and there we have it. Now we're going to work in here, whereas if you were hand embroidering, you would work on this side, but we're not. We're going in here. Okay, now there are lots of different things that people will tell you when it comes to free motion machining. Some people will tell you to run your machine fast but move your hands slowly. Some people will tell you to just go along at the speed that you're comfortable with. Other people will tell you that you need to try to keep the machine moving as fast as your hands. But to be quite honest, it all depends on what you're working on, what sort of threads you're using, and your machine. The older machines, you can do a lot more with them. I have a large-eyed needle in here, which is a metallic needle, and that's because I am using isocord threads, which are these beauties. Okay, if I can get it a bit closer, Anita. Right, so that's an isocord thread, I love these, and I don't put them on the machine. I use a cone stand instead for all of my sewing on a sewing machine. I never ever put any of the reels of threads on the machines, and that's because I personally find that the threads run better, especially these nice modern threads. Okay, and you might think that's a bit of a yucky colour, but actually when you see it sewing in a minute, you'll see that it's different. So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is to just base some basics with free motion machining. So with this one, I can lift this foot up a little bit, bring your foot down, hold on to your thread, just walk the stitch through the first time, lift this back up, and then bring the thread from the bottom through to the top. So you now have 2 threads here. I wonder if that will stop flickering if I turn that off. Right, I'm not sure I'll be able to see what I'm doing, but at least you can see what I'm doing. So I've got these 2 threads here, okay. So put the foot back down again and get ready to run it. Now all the time I'm fiddling about here with my hands, I don't have my foot on the sewing machine pedal at all, right, because I have been the person that's run over her fingers before now, and I can assure you it hurts like hell, so I don't recommend it. So hold these 2 threads and hold the sides of your hoop, and then start sewing. Now I know with this machine I can run it fast and move my hands slowly if I want to. So I've just done some big circles. I'll do a few more. Okay, foot off the pedal, lift the foot of the machine up and bring this out. Keep your foot off the pedal, please. Okay, so this is what we've got. Can you see that? The camera sorts itself out in a minute. So we've got lots of circles on there, and I've used a variegated thread. If I can bring it in a bit closer, there you go. Camera sorted that out. So if you were doing this as a background, so if you imagine this could be a wall. I don't know if you saw my post or if you've read any of my blog this week, but I got my son to take a photograph of a wall that I fell in love with on the way to Downham Market, and this sort of a background would be ideal for making that wall because it is a flint one. So that's the first thing. So we've been into wet wipes, so we don't really need those at the moment. So now I'm going to, where's that little, I think that's the one that's still a little bit wet, so we won't be working into that. But we will work into this one. Okay, so with this, I would not put this in a hoop. But what I can tell you is this is a little bit sticky running it around on here. So I'm just going to get up and get some silicone spray. If you just bear with me for a minute. Because it was on the other machine. Okay, so I'm literally going to spray that on there. And I'm going to give it a wipe. Just some nice soft cotton. That is now nice and slidey. It's also nicely cleaned my machine, as you can see. Okay. So that will now slide better than it did, alright? Because don't forget, this is plastic. that we're going to be working into. I'm not going to change the threads. We have to be very, very careful with it, because we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're bringing the 2 threads to the front, but this time I'm going to work on it a little bit slower because the plastic may rip. I can stabilise it by putting something on the back of it if I wanted to, but you know, sometimes it's a bit fun just trying things out. And also, I'm not 100% sure that this paint in here is completely dry. So I'm going to show you what happens when you start stitching on it. Keep that nice and tight and just stitch. And it is ripping it. That's my fault because I'm not being careful enough. So we'll go on this bit here and I'll be a little bit careful. Foot off the pedal. I bring that up to the camera. Come on, camera. I know it's very shiny. There we go. Can you see the stitches on that? I don't know if I can get it in any closer. There we go. See? Did rip it. See where I pulled it there? So I've got a couple of holes there. But on the hole, where are we? I'll never get used to this camera, I don't think. My son should do the camera work. There we go, some stitches. Okay. The other thing that you can do with this is, do you remember this bit? If you want some of the colours to show through, use much brighter colours than these. I mean, it would work perfectly on this one, but I know that there are areas on this one that are still wet, and I don't particularly want to put it through my machine. But if you see, oh come on Anita, there we go, you can see the colours through it. But what I will do is I'll just show you. Again, just bring the threads up. It's also difficult, believe it or not, to see this without the light on, which is strange. So all I'm going to do so I'm just following the pattern that is on here. Not being too fussy about it. Do it all, but just to show you what that looks like. So can you see? It's a bit shiny really, Anita, this is a bit shiny. There we go, come on. See how I've stitched over that? And it does look much better in real life actually. If you're coming tomorrow, you'll see these samples because they'll be there, and I'll probably work some more into them tomorrow, just to show you. So the next one is this one, which is paper on the back, right? And this needle is getting blunter and blunter as we're working, as you can imagine. Okay, so what should we do on this one? We'll just fiddle about with it, shall we? Again, foot's off the pedal. Bring the two threads to the front, hold on to them and stitch. Just lots of random circles on here, and this will continue to build up as a background. So that's the back, see, lots of circles, and that's the front. If the camera would like to see if it can pick those up. I'm not sure I'm showing you the right bit, to be quite honest. If I can get it a bit closer, can you see? Now yes, there are holes in it because obviously we've punched holes in it, but that won't matter if it's a background because you'll be putting other things on. So, and then there's the back. Okay, so I'm now going to get into this piece that I have been working on. Do you remember I showed you earlier? There's some stitching there, and then I've been stitching the stem and I've been stitching the leaves on this flower. See, some of the leaves, bit of a close up there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the thread now to a different coloured, that multicoloured one that looked a bit strange, and I'm going to do that to work into the flower. So, hello Angie. Lovely to see you. You like that? I'm not sure which bit you like because I wasn't paying attention, sorry. Right, so we're now going to put this on. This is a variegated thread that is much, much brighter up close. I'll show you as the light's hitting it. And most people go, oh gosh, that's awful. Or words to that effect. Okay. So I am going to show you just how beautiful this thread is when it's stitched. So just slid up the machine. My foot is off the pedal. I don't want to sew my fingers up again. Are you coming tomorrow, Angie? Nice to see you. Can't remember if you said you were or not, to be honest. I have left John in charge of the cake, which is cooking. I'm hoping that it's done and he hasn't forgotten about it. He's only got to poke it and take it out. And it's a apple crumble cake as promised. Okay, so that's the machine threaded up, and what I'm going to do is get this under here, and I'm just going to follow the outline at the moment of this flower, and once I've got the outline in, I'll then just colour in different areas. Okay, so this is tissue paper and it's on muslin, forgot. And then on top of that is a tissue paper flower, and there is some paint, and then there is some glitter as well. Not tomorrow, shame, it looks like a great time to be had. Cake as well. Yes, I'm afraid there's cake as well. As you know, Angie, always cake. Here we go. Now I am expecting some of this thread to snap quite regularly because it's going to hit these little bits of glitter on here. And as I say that, that's exactly what's just happened. Okay. So you have to be prepared for that if you've got glitter on here. These are like little shards of glass, this glitter. It's beautiful and I love it because it's got no colour, so the light is just picked up as it goes. Thank you. Just going over that bit slowly because there's a lot of glitter there. I'm not being fussy about getting it exactly perfect on the edge because I couldn't care less. You know, all I'm looking at is getting the outlines of these petals, which are quite frilly on this one. Not quite sure what sort of flower it's supposed to be. It snapped again. I'll just get around this bit and then I'll start colouring in, and I'm going to start colouring in from the middle. I don't think that I've got any glitter in the middle bit of the flower. I'm hoping not, because at some point the needle is going to turn around and say enough's enough. Because that's what happens. Okay, here we go. What's happened there? Oh, hello. Can't know why that took that underneath, but it did. Okay. Excuse me a minute. And for some reason, the underneath one snapped as well. Can't know why it did that. That's it. There we go. Done. There is some glitter in the middle of that flower, so I might come unstuck in a minute. Anyway, let's try it. Because, unless we try it, we don't know how it's going to react, do we? colouring, if you imagine you're colouring with a pencil, but this time we're using a sewing machine, it's the same principle. But instead of moving a pencil, we're moving the paper, so to speak. Just snap then? I don't think it did. So for all you guys out there that say, I can't draw and I can't do this and I can't do that, but I really want to know how to do free motion machine embroidery. So here is my flower beginning to take shape. It actually goes that way up. That's the back. See where I'm stitching? Just so that you can see the back. So all I'm doing is following the flower, and the flower could possibly change quite a bit as I'm stitching. When it comes to doing things like these little buds at the bottom, you just do the same thing, but you just do lots of little circles. So again, you're just colouring it in. And for those of you that are coming tomorrow, I won't have this finished in time. So that's one bud done. And because this is a variegated thread, they're all going to look slightly different. So there it is, that way. Okay. And then if I go over to this purple one over here, I think on the actual piece of tissue paper, it was a purple leaf of some description. But it's now become a bud as ready for a new flower. So even when you've got your work on here, you can change it. stitching can be as heavy or as light as you want it to be. Thank you, Angie. Okay, so that's the flower I have. Do you know, one of these days I might actually get used to using this stupid camera. There it is. The flower that I've just done is that one. Get in closer. And that's using that variegated thread. So I'll just go up to that top bit and get that little tiny bud done. Even though if I decide to frame this piece, you won't see it probably because it'll be in the frame. But we might do. Just a little word about stopping and starting. Because you're holding your two threads out of the way, you just stitch over them and that secures them. And because you're going over and over and over it, you're securing it even more. So this is that area just finished. When it kicks in, there we go. Okay. So I'm not sure what sort of a flower this is going to be. It's very strange, I think, but I think it's rather pretty. And actually the thing in the middle is now looking like a butterfly, so I'm not quite sure where I'm going to go with that, but I'm going to keep working into it anyway, and we'll see what happens with it. So that's basically what we're going to be up to tomorrow. Everybody will be making their backgrounds, and I will show them then how that they can stitch into them in the afternoons. Nobody, I don't think, will have anything that's going to be finished so that they can stitch into it, so you'll be stitching at home, or you can come back another week and do that. But tomorrow's Experimental Wednesday is all about making a background so that you don't have to rely on a commercially made background or any commercial fabrics. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Angie, for all your comments, and I hope to see you